Hey everybody, this is Ryan, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Adobe Premiere Pro, and I'm going to walk you through a couple tutorials on just the basics of the software and get you up and running and editing your videos. So, what's Adobe Premiere Pro? Well, it's part of the Adobe Creation Suite, which is, Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign and all those great programs you might have worked with. And it's just a more sophisticated editing program than you might be used to. So, your iMovies or your Windows Movie Maker, those are sort of the low-end ones. They give you some stuff that you can do, but this gives you lots more advanced features than those more consumer-level products. So, it's going to give you stuff like advanced editing, more advanced titles, things like that, color correcting video, adding in effects, and then of course exporting the video into a lot more file formats, from high definition to more web-friendly file formats. Another great thing about Adobe Premiere is when you start using this product, it really does interact well with a lot of other Adobe products. So if you're using Photoshop, you can really bring in those Photoshop elements into Premiere, and they work hand in hand really greatly. So let's get started editing.
Alright, so we are going to jump into this program, but there's a couple things we need to do before we even start, before we even click on this icon to get us into Premiere. There's two things that I want to do that are really important. The first thing is that before we even start, we need to make a folder and find a place that we're going to keep these all these files and everything that we're going to do for Premiere, and there's a really big reason for that. The main reason is when we start adding in video and we start adding in text and pictures and all those sorts of things, Premiere isn't going to embed those videos and stuff into our file. The file would just be so huge. What it's going to do is it's going to link to those videos. And that's great. Keeps our file size down. Cool. The problem with that is if we remove one of those links, so let's say I just link to something on my desktop and then I move that from the desktop to a folder, Premiere isn't going to know where that file is. It's going to come up and say, hey, you moved that file and I don't know where it is, so I can't show it to you. So before we even start, I usually like to make a new folder, and I'm just going to make it on the desktop, but you might make it anywhere. And I'm going to call it Balloon Project. And I know that I'm going to use this video inside of my project. So I'm going to make a new folder inside of there, and I'm going to call it footage. Okay. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that footage in there. So I know that that's where I'm going to put all of my balloon footage. All the new images and videos and everything that's going to be footage for this, I'm going to put in there. Okay. So now that I know where exactly all my stuff's going to go, I also need to know before I start the resolution of the images and movies that I'm going to use. So they might be different, but for the most part I'm going to have this one main video that I'm going to be editing. And Premiere is going to want to know, hey, I'm going to make a canvas for you to add movies and stuff to. But I want to make sure that that canvas size, that resolution of that canvas, is the correct resolution for the video that I'm going to be using. So right now I'm going to click on this, and if you look down at the bottom here, I can see that the frame width is 1280 and the frame height is 720. I'm in Windows 7 here. If you're in XP or something like that, you might need to right click on your video and look at the properties, and then under details and stuff, see 1280 by 720. Anyway, just know that you're going to need to know that resolution before you even start your project. So I'm going to close this out, and we're going to jump right into Premiere. So the first thing, Premiere is going to ask me, well, okay, do you want to start a new project or do you want to open up one of these recent projects? I'm going to start a new one. And then what this is going to say is I don't mess with any of these things usually, but the only thing that you'll have to change is this is going to be the name of our project. So I'm going to say hot air balloon. And this location, you want to make sure that we navigate and pick our balloon project folder. So I'm going to say select that folder, so now it knows that we're going to put this on the desktop in that folder, and I'm going to hit OK. Then it's going to open up another pop-up panel, and this is a lot of times where people, even before they get into Premiere, they get overwhelmed at this point. what this is this is where you're going to select the resolution. This is where we're going to make that canvas size for our video that we're going to create. So right now, remember I said it was 1280 by 720? I know, well, and I had chosen this before, so, but yours might look just like this empty bunch of folders. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to go through and find which one of these most matches your video. So I know that it's the video that I have is 1280 by 720, and if you remember, you might not have seen that, but it also is the audio sample rate is 48 kilohertz. So I know that this is the right one for me. I know that that's the one that I'm going to select, so that's the one there. And then I'm going to name the sequence. And what the sequence is the sequence is different than the project name. The project name is the one that we just gave it, and the sequence is more like the timeline that we're going to use. So we can have multiple timelines within one project, but this is just the first one. So I'm going to call this balloon 1. Balloon 1. Okay. So now that we hit OK, we're actually into the interface now. So we had to go through those first steps to even get inside the program. But those were important steps. Those will help us so that we don't get messed up later on down the line. So before we start importing in files or importing in our videos or anything like that, I'm just going to show you this interface, because in a lot of ways the Adobe Premiere interface seems like one of the most confusing when you very first get into it. I mean, you know, Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, those can all look confusing, but I think this one has the most buttons, the most little sections and everything like that, so it can look intimidating. But let's just break it down to the main parts. Before we start with that, though, I want to make sure that you guys are seeing the exact same thing that I'm seeing, which means that we need to be on the same workspace. So it might be up here at the top. You might have workspace up here, and then you can select from some of them down here. Now, if you're not using CS 5.5, which, or am I using 6? Yeah, I'm using 6. If you're not using CS6, yours might look a little different than this. It might say default, or it might say editing. I would just choose the one that looks most like this sort of layout. You can either find it here, or you can go under Window and choose Workspace. Okay, so once you have it looking like this, let's talk about these different sections. So I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side, upper left-hand side. Right here is your bin. And the bin is what's going to hold all of the different assets for our composition. So this is where we're going to drag and drop and import in our video files, our graphics, our separate audio, maybe MP3s or WAV files. This is where all those things are going to live, is off here on the left-hand side. So they're not actually in our project yet. We have almost nothing in here. But once they're in here, then we're going to drag and drop them onto the timeline. Okay. So down below that is some different tabs that you can tab through, and a lot of these we'll explain in different ones, but you know, this is going to give you info on different aspects of that. The one that I use the most is this effects one. This is going to give you the video transitions, so when you transition from one clip to another, we can talk about those and the effects that you're going to add to them, all that good stuff. So then next to that is the main event here. This is the timeline. This is where you're going to be editing things. This is where you're going to be cutting things apart and adding your different music tracks and all that stuff. This is where that show is going to go on. So then in the above right, this is where your main video feed is going to come from. So whenever you hit play and you start playing through your timeline, this is where that video is going to show up. So this is where you'll see everything. And then over here, there's also another a few tabs that you can go through. One is the source clip. This is where if I wanted to not see the timeline, but I wanted to see just the physical clip that was in here, I could click on a clip and just see that one little instance of that, as opposed to the long timeline version. And then there's some effects controls and some audio stuff and everything, but for the most part, that's the main things that you're going to need to know to get started editing. So that's the end of this video. Click on to the next one, and we'll start looking into importing, basic editing, using the transitions, things like that.